Hey there, Drowsy Historian here. Tonight you're not a samurai, a shogun, or a figure anyone will ever write about. You're a fisherman, which, in 15th century Japan, means you live at the edge of everything. The edge of the land, the edge of the economy, and the edge of the stories that ever get remembered. You wake before the sun, mend the same net for the third time this week, and pray the sea is feeling generous. You are not wealthy, you are not powerful, but you are necessary, which is almost never the same as safe. So before the tide vanishes, the sky goes still, and the ocean stands up to remind everyone who's actually in charge. Do me a favour. Leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from, and what it says about you that you chose slow maritime death by a natural disaster as your bedtime story tonight. If you'd like early access to these episodes, ad-free audio, or just want to support the show, there's a Patreon link down below. But for now, lie back, get comfortable. Let's begin. You wake before the light comes, not because you choose to, but because the habit has settled into your bones deeper than sleep ever could. Your body knows when to rise even if your mind lags behind. For a long moment, you don't move. You lie flat, staring into the darkness, trying to decide whether you're rested or simply done trying. The house around you is still asleep, but not silent. It makes the soft, unconscious noises of something old and lived in. The faint creak of wood shifting in the night air, the tick of something cooling, the subtle rustle of mice under the floorboards. The mat beneath you is thin and uneven, and one edge has curled under in a way that leaves a line pressed into your hip. Your blanket has slid halfway down your legs. Cold air presses against your shins. You reach for the blanket with slow habitual motion, not to pull it back up, but just to acknowledge its failure. That's how mornings start now. Not with urgency, not with thought, but with small acceptances. You blink several times, letting your eyes adjust to the dim. The roof above you is familiar. Wood beams running crosswise, stained dark with years of smoke. You know every crack and discoloration. There's one near the far corner that looks like a broken crescent moon, and you've never figured out how it got there. You think about asking your wife one day, but you never do. Some things are too small to remember, but too present to forget. She's sleeping beside you now, turned away, curled tightly beneath the blanket. You can see the rise and fall of her back, the faint flutter of hair near her neck as she exhales. Her breathing is steady, shallow. You listen to it for a while, letting the rhythm wrap around you. She'll be up soon, earlier than she wants to be, but later than you. That's always been the balance. In the next room, your daughter lets out a sudden snort, rolls over, and starts mumbling. You can't make out the words, but it sounds like she's arguing with someone in her sleep. Probably a frog, or a crab, or the sun. She has her own logic when dreaming, and none of it ever survives the retelling. You smile to yourself, just a twitch of the lips, gone as soon as it forms. The moment passes. You sit up slowly, legs swinging over the edge of the mat. Your joints complain in quiet, familiar ways. Not sharp pain, just the dull stiffness of another year lived on worn floors and heavy work. Your right knee clicks when you bend it. Your left ankle crackles when you roll it. You wince, then rub your face with both hands, palms rough from rope and salt. Your breath smells faintly sour. You'll rinse your mouth in a bit. Not yet. Your stomach grumbles faintly. It's not a hunger that demands, just one that reminds. You'll eat soon. Your wife will heat the rice. Maybe there will be pickled vegetables or dried fish from 2 nights ago if it wasn't all eaten. You think you remember seeing radish in the jar by the window, but you're not sure if it was fresh or forgotten. Either way, it will be enough. It always is. You glance toward the doorway. The thin line of light creeping beneath it is changing, lightening slightly, but still holding to the grey. The kind of light that's hard to name. It could be the start of something, or just the last echo of the dark. You rise slowly, careful not to wake the others. 1 step, then 2. The floor creaks, gently, like a whisper. You wince reflexively, even though there's no real reason. Your wife doesn't stir. She's good at pretending to sleep through your noise. You pause by the basin near the entrance, splash a little cold water onto your face. It bites, but not too hard. You rub your eyes again, rub your cheeks. Your reflection in the water is only half formed. Just a blur, a shadow, a man who hasn't spoken yet today, who hasn't quite entered the world again. That's fine. You'll join it soon enough. You look around the room once more, not for anything in particular, just checking. You always check, making sure the walls are still standing, the roof still whole, the stove still cold, the rice pot still sealed. It's a habit you don't question. If you don't look, that's when something breaks. There's a feeling this morning. Not dread, not exactly, just a quiet pressure in your chest that isn't attached to any one thought. Like the air is heavier than usual, like something is about to arrive, but no one sent for it. You try to shake it off. You stretch your arms overhead, feeling the pull in your back. You breathe out, slow and even. Behind you, the house begins to stir. A soft rustle of blankets, a faint murmur, the creak of knees against floorboards. You hear as your wife shift, then sit up. The rhythm is beginning. Breakfast will come soon. The day will begin. For now, though, the sky remains dark. The silence stretches long, and the feeling in your chest doesn't quite let go. You tell yourself, it's just another morning, and you almost believe it. You've been moving quietly for half an hour. Your daughter stirs now. Your wife shuffles to the stove, half awake, sleeves already rolled up. You pass her the pot without being asked. She takes it in both hands, fingers pale in the morning chill, and begins measuring the rice and water with a kind of practiced precision that doesn't require thought. There's still a little warmth clinging to the coals, just enough to catch. The husks catch fire quickly, and soon the smell of steam begins to fill the room. In the next room, your daughter makes her usual waking noises, a snort, a mutter, the sound of limbs flailing against a too-thin blanket. She kicks something, then silence. Then abruptly, she appears in the doorway, with her hair sticking up like she's been struck by lightning. She blinks at you both with one eye, then flops down beside the hearth and lets her head rest on her knees. "Why is it always morning?" she grumbles. "Because no one's figured out how to stop it," you say. She groans like this is a personal insult. Your wife smiles faintly, just for a moment, and hands her a half-filled bowl of rice. The meal is simple, rice that's slightly firm in the centre, pickled radish sliced too thin, and a scrap of dried fish you suspect might be older than you're comfortable with. The tea is warm, but bitter. No one complains. It's just food, just fuel. You eat in silence for a while, listening to the sound of chewing, the clack of chopsticks, the low bubble of the pot still steaming over the coals. Your daughter begins humming between bites, a tuneless melody at first, then a rhyme. Something from your grandmother's generation, something you haven't heard in years. When the sea begins to shine, hide your rice and draw a line. She pauses, chewing slowly, then frowns. What comes next? Your wife answers before you can. Tie a knot in every thread. Say the names of all the dead. The child wrinkles her nose. That's a terrible ending. Your wife shrugs. It wasn't meant to be a happy one. The words sit there for a while, not heavy exactly, but not harmless either. You chew a piece of fish and try to ignore how the rhyme loops in your head. It's one of those phrases that doesn't want to leave once it's spoken aloud. Outside, a gull cries, loud and strange in tone. You glance toward the window. The sound comes again, sharper this time. Not one bird, several. You lean forward slightly to see the light shifting through the paper shutters, and for a moment you swear you see movement, a flicker of wing, the shadow of something gliding past. They're close, you say, Too close, your wife murmurs. They shouldn't be inland. You nod. Gulls usually stay near the rocks, where the tide pulls back the seaweed and the crabs scatter. Inland is for crows and wind and laundry lines. You hear them again. Their calls cutting through the quiet in short broken bursts, not like they're hunting, like they're warning something. Your daughter leans toward the wall and whispers, maybe the sea's chasing them. You give her a look. Or maybe they're just bored, she adds quickly, and resumes eating. A goat bleats somewhere nearby, sharp and desperate, then shouting. A woman's voice, calling out to someone in short, clipped syllables. Then nothing. You all pause. Your wife glances at you, then back at her bowl. She was birthing last night. Twins, I think. You nod. Maybe it didn't go well. Or maybe it's just spring. Your daughter listens closely. Are they going to eat the babies? No, your wife says gently. Not if they're smart. The conversation ends there. The room settles again into quiet. You sip your tea. It's still bitter. Your wife stands to gather the dishes. You help, your fingers still slow from the cold. The cloth you use to dry the bowls is stiff at the edges, not from misuse, just time. You hand her each piece one by one, and she stacks them without looking. Her hands move automatically, but there's something slower in her motions than usual. A small pause, a hesitation in the way she sets the final bowl down. She's not humming, your daughter says softly. Your wife looks at her, surprised, then nods, as if just realizing it herself. You glance toward the door. The light has shifted again, not brighter exactly, just more insistent. The air feels thicker, like the room has drawn in its breath. You move to the wall and open the sliding door just a few fingers width. The air smells wrong. It's not bad, not strong, not anything you can name, just off. The way fish sometimes smell sweet before they turn. The way the water by the dock looks glassy, just before the storm breaks. You sniff again, but the scent fades. Only the wind remains, light, dry, indifferent. Your wife steps beside you and looks out as well. You're going down? I should check the lines, you say. She doesn't argue. She just hands you your net, already resting beside the door. Don't forget the cord on the back float. You said it was slipping. I'll see to it. You shrug on your coat, adjust the weight of the net across your back. The cord digs slightly into your shoulder. Familiar, grounding. Your sandals are cold. The stone step outside is colder. Your daughter appears behind you, already clutching her stick like a sword. Can I come? Not yet, you say. Too early? She frowns, then nods. I'll guard the house. You smile at that. She stands straight and salutes. You return the gesture, then step outside. The path down to the shore is worn smooth with years of passing feet. Your father's feet, your grandfather's, now yours. The moss-covered stones that line the edge are slick with dew, and your sandals press into the softened dirt with a quiet squish. A few fallen leaves cling to the path where the breeze has settled. You don't bother brushing them aside. The gulls are gone, and without their cries, the morning feels hollow. The trees that border the slope are still, no birds rustling their branches, no dogs barking in the distance, just the hush of the wind slipping sideways between trunks and the steady, rhythmic creak of the wooden charm at the shrine above the path. It's meant to scare away spirits that wander too far inland. You aren't sure it works. Most of the people you know are haunted anyway. Your boat rests where it always does, drawn up just beyond the reach of the high tide line. The hull leans slightly to one side, crooked but still intact. It looks less like a vessel and more like a sleeping animal, weathered, slouched and stubbornly alive. You pause for a moment before approaching, letting your eyes trace the edges of it, as if it might have changed in the night. It hasn't. The hull is dark with old salt and pocked with repairs, cedar patches of slightly different shades where rot was scraped out and filled. Your father taught you how to mend wood before he taught you how to fish. He said it would matter more in the long run. You didn't believe him at the time. Now you do. You crouch beside the bow and run your hand along the edge. The wood is damp, but not soaked. That's good. The overnight air was heavy, but the boat hasn't taken on more moisture than it can bear. You press your fingers into a seam you repaired last season. The joint holds, you nod to yourself and move on. The ropes are still coiled but loose in places. You lift them one at a time, testing for stiffness and rot. The ends have frayed more than you realised, probably from the last rough dock you tied up against. You'll need to trim and retie the knots. You turn the lines over slowly, checking them like old wounds. Some are clean, some need care. One has a faint, sour smell that tells you it's near the end of its life. You add it to the mental list. The list that never gets shorter, only reshuffled. The net lies in a damp bundle on the stern bench, half folded, half forgotten. You lift it carefully. The twine sticks in places, catches on itself, and unravels reluctantly. You spread it out over the flat ground near the boat and begin checking for damage. The knots are tight in most places, but a few strands have loosened, and one section has torn wide enough to lose a whole meal. You sigh and reach for the needle in your coat pocket. It's not a new one. The metal is dulled and slightly bent, but it does the job. You stitch without thinking. Your hands know the pattern better than your mouth ever could. Thread, loop, tighten. Thread, loop, tighten. The morning light grows a little stronger, casting faint shadows across the coils of netting in your lap. Your breath fogs in the cool air, but your fingers are warming with use. You hum something low and tuneless. Not a song exactly, just sound to keep time. While you work, you notice a change in the air. Not temperature, not wind, just weight. A heaviness that settles on the shoulders, as if the sky has thickened without darkening. You pause, glance up toward the horizon. The sea is quiet, too quiet. The waves don't break like they usually do against the rocks. The foam doesn't spray, it just laps. Small, dull movements, polite, contained. You squint. Something about the shoreline feels off, but you can't quite say what. Maybe the tide is low, lower than expected, or maybe the beach has shifted. Maybe it's your eyes tired and overused. You return to the net and resume stitching. You remember your father saying, "The sea is like a grandmother. It gives what it can when it wants, how it wants. And if you forget to say thank you, it takes twice as much the next time." You used to think that was poetic. Now it just feels like an excuse. The last knot slips into place. You tug gently at the thread, test the seam, and coil the net again. Your knees ache as you rise. You stretch your back and press your hands to your lower spine until the bones shift with a series of quiet clicks. The sound echoes faintly across the sand. There's no one here to hear it. The anchor stone sits where you left it, near the front of the boat, half covered in seaweed and old rope. You lift it with both hands, heavier than it looks, but you've done it 100 times. The grip is worn smooth by calloused palms. You set it aside and check the baseboards underneath. No rot, no water pooling, just sand, dust, and a few scattered pebbles. One of them is white and round, possibly a bone, possibly shell. You flick it away without examining it too closely. You run your hand along the inside rail of the boat. The cedar is rough, splintered in places but familiar. This boat is older than your marriage. It's seen more storms than you have. It creaks when you push against the hull, a low groan like a tired elder rolling over in sleep. You mutter an apology under your breath and pat the side twice. You don't talk to the boat out loud. Not usually, but this morning it feels like it might deserve the courtesy. You check the oar. It's propped where you left it, resting against a boulder near the shoreline. The shaft is still solid, but the paddle is starting to split at the edge. Not badly, but enough to worry about if the water gets rough. You press your thumb to the crack and feel the give beneath the surface. You could seal it with pitch, or wrap it with cord, or ignore it for one more trip and hope the sea doesn't notice. A breeze picks up, soft and irregular. It passes across your face, not cold, but unsettling, like someone whispering a word you didn't quite catch. You glance up. The sky still pale, still wide, still undecided. No clouds, no threat. But the air tastes sour, not strongly. Just enough to raise a question in your mind that you don't feel like answering. You gather your tools and stack them in the shallow box near the stern. The knife goes on top, followed by the net needle and the scrap of cord you didn't use. You tie the lid down and loop the strap over the post where it always goes. Everything is in its place. And yet, nothing feels settled. You look toward the village. Rooftops just visible through the trees, smoke curling from a chimney or two. The world continues on as if the sea isn't watching, as if the gulls weren't flying inland this morning, as if something hasn't already shifted beneath your feet. You step around to the bow and press your palms flat against the hull. The wood is cold beneath your hands, damp, still solid. You brace your foot and push. The boat lurches slightly in the sand, then begins to slide. The sound it makes is soft, dragging, like something being pulled awake. You guide it down a few feet, just enough for the keel to kiss the edge of the surf. You pause there, standing beside it, one hand on the stern, the other wrapped around the rope. The tide is still low, lower than it should be maybe, but not impossibly so. You tell yourself it's just the season, just a shift in the moon. The sky's colourless now, not grey, not blue, just pale, as if it's been scrubbed clean and hasn't decided what to wear yet. The wind moves past you again, light, cool and impersonal. You take a long breath through your nose, testing the air for any last sign of trouble. It smells like salt, old wood, and the faintest edge of something metallic. Too faint to name, too stubborn to ignore. The boat is ready. Your nets are repaired. The oar is in reach. The anchor stone rests beside the bow, coiled rope beside it. All that's left now is to shove off. The boat slips into the water with a sigh. The bow dips, then rises again, and the keel finds its groove as it glides over the shallows. You wade in knee-deep and guide it further, water soaking through your sandals and chilling your ankles. The surf is lazy this morning, barely brushing the shore, more a suggestion than a wave. You brace one hand on the stern and give it a final shove before climbing in. The familiar creak of the wood greets you as you settle into place. You check the oar, still there. The net beside you is coiled and damp, ready to unspool. Nothing forgotten, nothing out of place. The anchor stone thumps softly against the hull as you push off, and the boat begins its slow glide into deeper water. You're not the first one out. A few others have already launched. You see them as dark shapes in the fog-tinted light, low to the water, drifting with practiced aimlessness. One man raises a hand in greeting from 20 paces off. Kenter, probably, or someone built like him. You raise your hand in return, not sure if he saw you. It doesn't matter. You're all heading to the same water. The first few strokes of the oar come easy. The sea is calm, too calm. You tell yourself that's a blessing. No fighting the current, no rocking from side winds, just smooth, steady progress across a surface like polished stone. But you don't trust it. Calm seas don't always mean kind seas. Sometimes they just mean the sea hasn't decided what it wants yet. Farther out, the smell changes. Shoreline salt gives way to deep brine, thicker and more iron-heavy. It clings to your nostrils. You wipe your nose on your sleeve, then adjust the net again. The fibres squeak faintly against the hull. Everything feels louder out here, as if the quiet is pressing in against the boat from all sides. You reach the usual spot, a shallow reef just off the bend in the coastline. Everyone in the village knows this place. It's where the fish gather when the water begins to warm. This time of year, the schools should be thick, not plentiful maybe, but steady. Enough to feed a family, sometimes two. You set the net over the side and let it sink in slow coils, the lead weights dropping into the stillness below. Not far off, another boat rocks gently. It's the Takeda boy, still too thin for the sea, but too proud to admit it. His shoulders are hunched forward, like he's trying to disappear into the boat's ribs. You watch him cast his net. It tangles once, then falls straight. Good enough. He glances over and offers a sheepish grin. You nod. You don't feel like calling out. A familiar voice drifts across the water. Manabi, of course, loud even when he's not trying to be. He's talking to someone you can't see, likely his brother, or maybe just himself. You catch a few words. Something about worms, something about the price of sake. Then laughter. Too loud, too sudden. It dies quickly. The silence that follows feels heavier than the noise it replaced. You bait your line and drop it in. The weight pulls it down, slow and steady. You brace the end against your foot and wait. The water is so still, it feels wrong. The line doesn't sway, the boat doesn't rock. You shift your weight just to feel movement. The boat responds, but sluggishly. You check the bait, still there. No nibble, no twitch, nothing. A shadow passes beneath the boat, long, slow, silent. You lean over the edge and peer down. The water is clear today, unnaturally so. You can see the rocks below, even though they should be blurred by morning haze. You spot a cluster of fish drifting near the reef. They aren't swimming, just hovering, facing the same direction, motionless except for the occasional tail flick. You frown. That's not how they're supposed to behave. Fish in these waters are quick, skittish, always darting through shadows, like they know something's coming. These ones don't move. They float like they're waiting for instructions. You pull the line in, rebait it, cast again. Still nothing. The others seem to be having similar luck. No one's whooping, no one's calling out catch numbers or bragging. You hear a quiet curse from a few boats down. A splash. The sound of someone slapping the side of their hull in frustration. You don't say anything. Below the waterline something pulses. You look down again and see it. A jellyfish, bulbous and pale, drifting lazily past your oar. Its body undulates gently. Translucent flesh shimmering faintly in the sunlight. It's early for them. Too early. These don't usually show up until the hot months, when the water's thick with plankton and the nets come back stinging. You watch it move under the boat and vanish into the blue. You remember your uncle once said the sea hides its anger until it's ready. He told you that right after a squall broke a friend's mast in two and left his boat spinning in the shallows, like a beetle on its back. The sea doesn't shout, he said. It waits. You never forgot that. You glance up and see another boat closer than expected. It's Kenta after all. He's rowing slowly, his face pulled tight like he's chewing something sour. His net is empty and drying in the wind. He doesn't wave this time. Just stares at the horizon for a beat too long, then adjusts course and keeps going. The wind brushes past your shoulder, soft, indecisive. Not warm, not cold. You look up at the sky, still pale, still washed out. There are no clouds, but there's also no colour. Just blankness. You rub your palm along your thigh, trying to work out the tension in your fingers. You didn't notice you'd been gripping the side of the boat that hard. You reel your line in again. Still nothing. You cast a glance towards shore. It's far now. Not dangerously far, but enough that the houses look like stones along the hillside. You can't see the shrine from here, but you imagine the charm still swinging, still tapping its soft warning into the air. Another jellyfish passes, larger than the first. This one is orange, with long trailing tendrils that ripple behind it like hair. It moves without urgency, without fear. The fish give it a wide berth, but slowly. Even they don't seem in a hurry. You lean back, stretch your legs, and let your hand rest on the edge of the hull. The sea slaps gently against the boards, not rhythmic, not irregular, just quiet. The net is due to be pulled soon. You reach for the rope and pause. The water shifts, not in waves, in silence. You can't name it, you just feel it. A moment of weightlessness, a pause, as if the sea took a breath in, but forgot to let it out. You grip the rope, and wait. Time passes, the boat drifts. A low creak answers from beneath your feet, as if the hull itself is stiff from waiting. You sit there, unmoving, and listen. The water laps gently against the wood. The wind, if it exists, is too lazy to stir your sleeve. And the birds are gone. All of them. No gulls, no crows, no chittering from the trees on shore. Just absence. The kind of silence you only notice once you've been alive long enough to know what should be there. The sea looks normal, but it doesn't feel normal. It moves too quietly. Not glassy, not still, but wrong. Like the surface has been stretched tight over something it doesn't want to reveal. The usual rhythm is gone. There's no push and pull. Just floating. The kind of floating you associate with sleep or death, depending on the day. A boat drifts a little too close to yours. Kenters again. He's not fishing now, just watching the water. His oar is resting the same way yours is, across his knees, forgotten. He doesn't look at you, but you feel the echo between you. That mutual stillness. The silence is now shared. You clear your throat and say nothing. He does the same. In the distance, someone finally speaks. A sharp nasal voice calls out across the water, strained by false cheer. Caught anything? There's no reply. Someone else mutters something lower, and the words don't carry. Then laughter. Thin, nervous, too loud. It dies quickly. A dog barks. Once, then again. A third time. You frown and turn slightly in your seat. Dogs don't bark from boats. That sound came from land. From the village, or just beyond it. The bark is sharp, staccato, with no rhythm to it. A second dog joins in. Then a third. You can't see them, but you can picture it. 3 mutts, scattered across the hill, lifting their heads and howling towards something they can't explain. They were doing that all night, someone says from another boat. Just within earshot. You glance toward the voice, but the speaker is hidden by the curve of their sail. A man, you think. Older. His tone is flat. Informative. They wouldn't shut up. My brother threw a bucket at one of them. Didn't stop. Just kept going. You nod, unsure why. Another creak rolls through your boat. The wood sounds brittle. You check the edges. No visible cracks. You shift your weight anyway, trying to reassure yourself that the boat is sound. It doesn't help. You glance down at the water again. The reef is still visible beneath you. Rocks, shadowed sand, the soft sway of seaweed. But nothing is moving the way it should. You see a small school of fish, tightly clustered. They aren't swimming, just hovering in place like they've been stunned. Their sides glint faintly in the pale light. One darts suddenly to the left, but the others don't follow. That's not right. You adjust your net, not because you plan to cast again, but because the motion gives your hands something to do. The line tangles slightly. You let it. A memory flickers. Your uncle, when you were young, telling stories he wasn't supposed to tell. Not to children, not to anyone really. The kind of stories that come out, only when the sky is wrong and the tea is strong. He told you about a village farther up the coast, long before you were born. Said it vanished in a day. Said the sea pulled back so far they could see the bones of ships that hadn't surfaced in generations. Said the children chased crabs across sand that wasn't supposed to be there, laughing, right until the wave returned. You laughed when he told it. Not because it was funny, because that's what you did when something didn't fit into your head yet. He laughed too, but slower, sadder. You haven't thought about that story in years, maybe decades. You look toward shore. The tide is low. That's expected. It always lowers around this time. But now that you're really looking, it feels wrong. Not just lower than it should be, but pulled, as if someone reached down and dragged the sea away by hand. The rocks at the far end of the beach are usually half submerged. Now they're fully exposed, barnacle-covered and bone-white. You can see the old net post that fell during last year's storm. It's upright again somehow, like the sea never took it. You feel a chill crawl up your spine, not cold, just recognition. You realise you haven't seen a crab since yesterday. That's odd. They're always there, tucked between the rocks, dragging their claws over the sand, stealing bait when they think you aren't watching, always underfoot, always skittering just out of reach. But now that you think about it, not just this morning, but last night, the evening before, there's been nothing. No tracks, no shells, no claws brushing against your ankle, just absence, Another dog barks, this time longer. A howl. You close your eyes, try to imagine wind, the sky, anything normal, but the air presses too tightly against your skin. The light hasn't changed in an hour. The tide hasn't moved. Your hand drifts to the side of the boat and presses lightly against the rail. The wood is damp as always, but there's no salt crust. That's strange. It's always there by now. A fine white dust clinging to the edges. A taste on your tongue. A sting in the cracks of your knuckles. The sea is here, but it isn't. You glance back at the other boats. The movement is slower now. Less rowing. More drifting. People looking around instead of down. Nets pulled in early. Lines left untouched. No one speaks anymore. Even Manabe is quiet. You meet Kenta's eyes across the water. He tilts his head slightly. A question. You don't answer, but your silence says enough. There's something wrong. You hear a splash. A single, deliberate splash. Someone dropped something, or someone jumped in. You wait for the call, the complaint, the laugh, the shout. Nothing comes. The silence folds back in. You rest your hands on your knees and listen to the faint slosh of water against the hull. Somewhere far below, the sea holds its breath. And so do you. It begins with a sound you don't recognize, not a crack, not a roar, just absence again, but shaped differently this time. The lapping of water against the hull disappears, not softens, vanishes. One moment the sea is under your boat, and the next it feels farther away than it should be. You sit up straighter, eyes scanning the surface. Nothing seems to have moved. Not exactly, but something is wrong. Then the boat shifts. Subtle at first, a slight lurch like a gust of wind that never arrives. You glance over the side and realise the waterline is lower than it was just moments ago. You blink, shake your head, and look again. The rocks near shore are taller now. The posts are longer. What should be hidden is being revealed. It's not slow. That's the part your mind has trouble with. Not that it's happening, but that it's happening fast. You watch the tide retreat as if it's being yanked backward, like someone pulling a blanket off the land. Long lines of foam stretch toward the horizon, curling and collapsing. Patches of seaweed flop against suddenly dry sand. The water is pulling away, and it's not coming back gently. You drop the net, half-tide, and reach for the oar. Your hands are clumsy. The rope catches on your fingers. The net spills over your feet as you shift position. You brace against the side and start rowing, not gently, not rhythmically, just hard. The boat groans as it spins, resisting for half a moment before giving in to your force. The hull slaps the thinning water. Your oar bites deep, then catches only air. Someone calls out behind you. You don't catch the words. You don't need to. The tone is enough. Your arms burn as you row toward shore. The water is getting shallower beneath you, visibly draining, revealing stones you've never seen, ridges you didn't know were there. A sandbar emerges near the inlet, long, slick, unnatural. Fish are flopping on it already, stranded by the retreat. A large one twists in place, panicking. Another lies still, gasping. You pass them both. You're not the only one rowing now. Other boats are turning, oars creaking, nets abandoned. The earlier silence is breaking, but it's not chatter. It's alarm. Shouted names, questions no one answers. One man stands in his boat pointing toward the sea, shouting something about the horizon. You don't look. You don't want to. Closer to land, you see figures moving. At first you think they're running, but they're not. They're walking, calmly. Children mostly. Some carrying baskets, others holding sticks, all of them drawn toward the newly exposed shoreline, like it's a gift. They scatter across the wet sand in clusters, chasing crabs, shouting to each other, pointing at the strange fish left behind. One boy bends down to poke at a stranded jellyfish with the end of a reed. He laughs. You shout. You don't even know what. Maybe his name, maybe just a word to break through. He doesn't turn. The children are too far away to hear you, or they're pretending not to. Your oar strikes bottom, not hard but enough to jolt you. You're still too far out. You push again, harder now, teeth clenched. The boat grinds against the sand and rocks beneath it, scraping forward with each shove. You grip the edges and pull yourself forward, trying to keep momentum. Near the shallows, one of the elders has come down the path from the village. You recognise him by the way he walks, slow, deliberate, back curved slightly from age. His hands are clasped behind him, prayer beads looped loosely over one wrist. He stops halfway down the slope and stares out at the ocean. You follow his gaze. The horizon is wrong. Not just low, flat, too flat, stretching wide and barren where there should be motion. The sea has been pulled so far back that you can see distant ridge lines, mud flats, long streaks of coral exposed for the first time in memory. It's as if the ocean is inhaling, gathering, preparing. The elder's hand trembles. One of the beads slips from his fingers. It falls, striking the stone step with a soft tap, then rolls downhill, forgotten. His eyes widen, his mouth moves, but nothing comes out. Then he turns, not to shout, not to run, just turns slowly, like his bones remember something his voice has forgotten. You know what he saw. You've heard the stories, not just from your uncle, but from others, half-drunk men at winter festivals, women muttering while folding laundry, children daring each other to say the word wave in the dark. They always said the sea would vanish before it came, that it would run away like a coward, and that the wise would run faster. You never believed it, or maybe you did, but you laughed to cover the fact that you did. Now you believe. Your boat strikes hard against a submerged rock and lurches sideways. You nearly lose your balance. You drop the oar and scramble to grab the edge, your knuckles scraping against the hull. The boat groans, then settles. The bottom is touching now. No more rowing. You throw your leg over the side and land ankle deep in cold mud. Others are doing the same. Boats are scattered in half moons across the retreating waterline, tilted at strange angles. Fishermen are shouting, not to each other, not to the sea, just into the air, like they don't know what direction help should come from. You're on shore, but it doesn't feel like safety. Your feet hit the dry sand and keep moving, though your brain hasn't caught up yet. The air is thick, not just with salt and rot, but with noise. Not the loud kind, but the layered kind. Shouting, breath, wood splintering, the wet slap of feet hitting mud. You hear someone calling for their child, someone else shouting to head uphill. Another voice arguing. Too many voices, not enough clarity. You look back once and immediately wish you hadn't. The sea is still gone, but what replaces it is worse. A rising blur on the horizon, like heat off stone, but darker. A line, a height, something that shouldn't be moving and yet is. You don't stare long, you can't. The ground underfoot is wet and soft. You trip on a pile of kelp and nearly go down. You catch yourself on a knee, then stand and keep moving. Something sharp tears your palm, a shell, maybe glass. You don't stop to check. You glance around looking for your daughter. She's ahead of you, near the old basket tree, eyes wide and darting. She hasn't run yet, not really. She's turned in place, arms twitching like she's unsure whether to reach for you or keep going. You shout her name and she hears it, turns, starts running towards you, and then past you, uphill, finally understanding. You yell again, louder this time, for your wife. No answer. You spin in place, nearly slipping in the mud. Figures blur past you. Neighbours, strangers, someone you know by voice but not by name. One man is still dragging his net behind him, like it might be worth saving. Another cradles his fishing rod in both arms like a child. You shout again. You see your wife near the base of the shrine steps, turning in slow circles, her face pale and eyes unfocused. She's not looking for you. She's looking for her mother. You shout again, her name roar in your throat. She doesn't turn. Around you, the village has come undone. Doors hang open, baskets lie scattered, Rice spills in crooked lines across the path. Someone trips over a sack and curses, then doesn't get up. Another person grabs them, pulls them upright, then keeps going without looking back. A boy is frozen near the well. Maybe 7, maybe 10. He's holding a stick and nothing else. You wave him forward. He doesn't move. You don't have time to go to him. You don't know if anyone will. The bell at the shrine rings once, loud, clear, metal and wind. Then it rings again. A woman stumbles on the steps and knocks her shoulder against the post. Her baby is crying, but she's not. Her face is stone. Her legs keep climbing. Then the bell stops. Not because the wind has died, you can still feel it, but because something else has. You reach your daughter and grab her arm. She says something. You don't catch the words. You're both breathing too hard. You look back again, just once, and see your wife at the base of the hill, looking left and right like she's counting ghosts. You scream her name again. This time, she hears. She turns toward you. You lock eyes. You can't read her face. She's not running. She should be. You want to run to her, but your daughter is already pulling you uphill. You can't stop. Your legs are moving, and the ground is steeper now. People are abandoning everything. The road is littered with sacks, baskets, fish still flopping in puddles, sandals kicked off in panic. A man near the old storehouse tries to pull his ox by the harness. The animal refuses to move. He screams at it, hits it once with a length of rope, then drops it and starts running alone. Someone ahead of you slips on the stones. You nearly trip over them. You don't stop. They shout something after you. Or maybe not at all. It's hard to tell. Words are just noise now. The hill curves, the path narrows. You can hear a dull roar now behind everything. Not close yet, but not far enough either. It isn't wind, it isn't the sea, it's both, and more. You don't want to know what it becomes. You keep looking back, even when you shouldn't. You see figures scrambling up the path, others still near the waterline, unsure which way to go. The strange calm from earlier has broken, but it hasn't turned to panic, just motion, muddled, half-decided motion. People trying to take control of something that no longer listens. At the top of the slope, a woman is pulling her child up by the arm. The child is screaming. The woman isn't. She looks like she hasn't blinked in minutes. A man tries to pass her. She hits him in the chest, without meaning to. He stumbles and keeps going. They both do. You reach the bend in the path where the trees thicken. Your legs are heavy now, your breath ragged. Your daughter is ahead again. You shout her name just to hear it. She turns, then keeps moving. She's faster than you, lighter, younger. You're glad for it. You glance back again. Your wife is halfway up the hill. She's running now, but not fast. Her hands are empty, her face still blank. You keep yelling. The roar is louder now, closer, like stone grinding against bone, like wind shoved through a narrow space. A group of villagers has clustered just beyond the bend, near the old stone steps where the trees thin out. Some are helping each other. Others are just standing, breathing hard, clutching their sides. Someone is bleeding from the arm. Another is barefoot, toes scraped raw. No one is speaking now. The noise has replaced language. Your wife reaches you at last. She stumbles into your side, breathless. You grip her arm and pull her forward. You don't ask where her mother is. You already know. You move together, 3 bodies bound by sweat and shock, climbing without looking. Behind you, the shrine bell does not ring again. Ahead of you, the hill continues to rise. You don't know what you'll find at the top: trees, rocks, a few minutes more. But for now, it is away, and that is enough. It doesn't start with a crash, nothing the way stories say. It starts with wind, cold, immediate, and wrong. It comes from nowhere, all at once, cutting through the trees like a blade. You feel it before you hear it. The leaves above you start to hiss. Not rustle, not flutter, hiss like steam escaping from a sealed pot. You know, before you turn, before you look. Your wife is just behind you. You hear her stagger, hear her breath catch. She grips your sleeve with one hand and your daughter's shoulder with the other. You want to turn and speak, tell her it's all right, or not all right, or just something. But the words don't come. You're already turning toward the sea, and there it is. Not the ocean, not anymore. The wave. It doesn't look like water. It looks like the sky has come loose. A wall taller than the tallest tree, wider than anything you've ever seen move. It eats the horizon, blocks the light. It doesn't foam or crash or break. It simply rises, gathers, comes. Someone ahead of you gasps. You don't know who. Your daughter grips your arm so tightly it hurts. You glance to your wife, and she's staring straight ahead, her lips parted slightly, her eyes unmoving. You want to say her name. You do say it maybe, but your voice is swallowed by the roar beginning to build. It still isn't loud, not yet, but the air feels thick, electric, full of weight, like a storm with no lightning, like the breath before a scream. Below, the sea meets the land again, not as tide, but as force. It doesn't touch the village, it consumes it. The shrine vanishes first, its stone base cracking like it's made of sand. Roofs fold inward, trees snap. The sea takes what it left behind. Your wife flinches once, like she's going to run. She doesn't. You don't either. No one moves right away. No one can. Then your daughter pulls at your sleeve, sharp and insistent. You turn, she's yelling something. You can't hear it, and pointing uphill. You nod, but don't move. Your eyes go back to your wife. She's still staring. Her hair blows forward across her face, and she doesn't brush it away. She doesn't cry. You're not sure she's breathing. You take her hand, the one not gripping your daughter, and squeeze. That breaks it. She looks at you, really looks, and her eyes change. Not into panic, just into something solid. A decision. She nods. The three of you move as one. The path is rough here. Roots, mud, broken stone. Someone ahead trips. Someone else screams. You don't stop. You don't look down. You just move. But the roar behind you is growing. Not a single crash. Just a growing pressure, like the sky itself is pushing down. You try not to look, but your wife does. She looks back, and when she does, she stumbles. You catch her. She catches herself. You move again, faster. You pass the old pine with the hollow trunk, the one you used to point out to your daughter and say that's where the forest spirits sleep. She used to laugh. She isn't laughing now. The wave reaches the lower path. You hear it, not as sound but as motion. Wood snapping, stone breaking, earth being pulled from itself. You're almost at the ridge. The trail narrows between two stone outcrops, slick with moss. You shove your daughter ahead and turn to help your wife, but she's already moving, right behind you, hand tight around your belt to keep from falling. Then something changes. It's the light maybe, or the sound, or the air, you don't know. But something changes. You hear it, in the way birds explode from the canopy above. You feel it, in the soil vibrating beneath your feet. Then the water comes. You don't see it crash, you feel it break the world. A wall of spray erupts behind the trees, branches splinter. A boulder the size of a cartwheel rolls past, caught in something invisible. The path behind you disappears into white. You can't see your wife. You turn, hand reaching back, but it finds nothing. The place where she was is just gone. No figure, no sound, just water. You scream her name, nothing answers. Your daughter is ahead, clinging to a tree. She looks back, eyes wide, mouth open. You don't know what she sees in your face. You don't know what you're showing her. You run. You grab her by the arm and pull her up the last few steps toward the ridge. The water is at your heels now, nipping at rock. You don't know if it will reach you. You don't know if it already has. You don't stop until your lungs are empty, until the wind is screaming again, until the forest opens up and the sky returns, grey and blank above you. You collapse beside a fallen tree, pulling your daughter down with you, both of you gasping, coated in sweat and mud. You look back. There is no path, no village, no sea, just movement, just ruin, Just a long, wide silence where life used to be. You shout again. Her name, once, then twice. No one answers. The wave keeps moving inland, slower now, its energy spent. It rolls through the forest like a tired god. The trees bow. The soil buckles. You watch it, arm around your daughter, trying not to cry. You tell yourself your wife is above it, that she made it past the ridge somehow, that she's just out of sight, calling your name too. You tell yourself this because you need to, and because the alternative is too big, too loud, too final. The water settles, you do not. You wake on mud, or maybe you don't. Maybe you never lost consciousness. Maybe this is just what happens when there are no more sounds to react to, no more reasons to move. The ground beneath you is slick and soft, not quite solid. Your cheek sticks to it when you try to lift your head. You manage barely to roll onto your side. Your limbs ache. Your ribs feel bruised. Your throat tastes like salt and soil. You cough once and it hurts. Your daughter is still there, beside you, curled around a tree root like it grew for her. She's not crying. Her eyes are open, but her focus is somewhere far away. The trees above you look wrong. The leaves are torn and hanging at odd angles. One tree has its bark peeled halfway down, like something clawed its way through it. Bits of debris hang in the branches, a shredded net, a child's cloth doll, something that might have been a roof tile or a cooking pot. You don't see the ocean anymore, just wet earth and broken shapes. Eventually you stand. It takes longer than it should. Your legs argue with you. Your balance rebels, but you rise because something in you believes you have to. Your daughter watches without speaking. She doesn't reach for you, and you don't reach for her, but you're both aware of each other like weight in opposite pockets. You look downhill. You shouldn't, but you do. What was once your village is now something else. A flat, half-drained basin of sludge and wreckage. Your house is not there, nor is your neighbour's, nor the shrine, nor the boats. At least not where they're supposed to be. One boat is wedged between two trees, at shoulder height, split nearly in half, its ribs exposed like some enormous dead fish. Another sits upside down, on a slope that didn't exist yesterday. You think it might be yours. You think it doesn't matter. A tatami mat clings to a tree branch, sagging in the middle. A single sandal, not yours, not your daughter's, hangs by its strap from what used to be a chicken coop. A length of rope stretches from a bent support beam to nothing at all. You follow it with your eyes and it leads nowhere. There's movement, not people. A chicken, one of the neighbours, you think, picks its way across the wreckage, with the same rhythm it had yesterday. It clucks as it walks, head bobbing, totally unbothered by the absence of a coop, a home, or a world that makes sense. It pecks at something in the mud, finds nothing, and moves on. You almost laugh, but you don't. You step carefully down the slope, your feet squelching in mud that was never supposed to be here. Every step makes you smaller. The world is bigger now, emptier, and everything familiar has been twisted just slightly out of shape, like a story you've heard 100 times and now realise you misunderstood. The shrine stone lies face down, half submerged in a ditch. One corner is cracked. The salt lines haven't dried yet. You pause there, unsure whether to touch it, to flip it over, to say something. You do none of those things. You look for your wife. You don't expect to find her. That's the worst part. Not the fear, but the slow and steady settling of expectation. You search the edges of the wreckage anyway. Not methodically, not with hope, just out of motion. You step over a broken bench, around a pile of branches that might once have been a wall, past the spot where the old storehouse used to be. Now just boards stuck in wet sand like broken teeth. No bodies? That's almost worse. You find your neighbour's cart, the one with the squeaky wheel. It's crushed under the frame of a building that landed on it from the wrong direction. The ox is gone. You find a door, still on its hinges, but the house it belonged to is nowhere nearby. You find your net, tangled in a tree, looped around a trunk like someone tried to hang it as a warning. You don't touch it. Your daughter stands at the edge of the new shoreline, if it can even be called that. Her feet are bare, caked in silt. Her hair is stuck to her cheek. She hasn't asked about her mother. She hasn't asked about anything. You sit beside her in the mud. The sky is pale and silent. No gulls, no crows. Just open space and an ocean that has receded, leaving only its fingerprints behind. You know it will come back. Not as a wave, not this time, but in other ways. The tides will return. The fish will return. So will the salt. But not her. Your wife is part of the sea now, or the trees, or the mud, or the silence. You let your hand rest on the wet ground and feel the earth shift beneath it. Not shaking, just breathing slowly, like it always has. Like it did before you were born, and will long after you're gone. A plank of wood floats by with a cracked bowl still tied to it. You don't recognise it. You don't need to. Somewhere behind you, the chicken clucks again. Like it's late for something. The days blur. You don't count them. There's no calendar anymore, and the sun doesn't rise the way it used to. Not because the sky has changed, but because you have. You no longer wake before dawn. You wake when your body says so. Sometimes it's still dark, sometimes not. Your daughter sleeps beside you, curled into the bend of your arm, or on a pile of dry grass you gathered with a piece of woven mat. She rarely speaks. When she does, it's short things. Yes. No. Here. You don't ask her to say more. She will when she's ready, or she won't. There's no rulebook for this, only aftermath. The others, the few who survived, gather in broken groups. You see them sometimes at the edges of the flattened forest, near a cooking fire, or piling what's left of someone's roof. No one gives orders, no one makes plans, not yet. The work is mechanical, hands doing what they remember doing, stacking, sorting, clearing, moving forward in slow, hesitant increments, like animals poking at a cave that used to be home. The sea is quieter now. That might be the worst part. There's no crash, no churn, no teeth left in it. It just sits there, glinting softly beneath a sky that pretends it didn't happen. It looks calm again, the kind of calm that's impossible to trust. A flat blue mouth that swallowed your world and then had the audacity to still look beautiful. You haven't gone near it, not yet. You will, you know that. The fish won't catch themselves, the food stores are gone, the rice paddies drowned. The chickens, the ones that lived, are laying again, but not enough to matter. Sooner or later, someone will build another boat, or drag a broken one back into working shape. It might be you, it might not. Your hands still remember how. Your back still aches the same way it always did. But something in you has cracked that no mending will touch. You don't speak of it. None of you do. There's no language for what it feels like to outlive your own life. Sometimes someone lights incense near the fallen shrine stone. No one writes it, no one dares. It lies there, face down in the mud, like a body too large to lift, too sacred to disturb. The wind carries the scent of the smoke across the hilltops. When it reaches you, you breathe it in and taste the old prayers like ashes. Your wife's name stays in your mouth, even when you don't say it. You feel her in your fingers, in your shoulder, in the sound your daughter makes when she sits up too fast and tries to pretend she's not dizzy. You see her in the trees, not as a ghost, but as a memory so stubborn it plants roots. You don't look for her anymore, but you don't stop looking either. The others have started digging out the foundations of what used to be the longhouse, not to rebuild it, just to see what's there. There's something oddly soothing about pulling wet beams from the earth, like unearthing the bones of something that once mattered. You help when your hands need something to do, you don't when they don't. Someone found a lacquered bowl that floated all the way to the foot of the mountain. Another man pulled a tatami mat from a pine tree and folded it like he might use it again someday. You watch them do these things and understand it. Even now, the human urge to save, to salvage, to repurpose the ruin. A child, not yours, plays near the edge of a broken footbridge, skipping stones into a puddle too small to reflect the sky. Her mother watches her, with eyes so tired they don't blink unless they have to. Your daughter watches too, not smiling, but not hiding. You tell yourself that's something. There is no memorial, no monument, no carved names, just a place that used to be a village, and now is a reminder that nothing made by hands can last forever. The sea gives, then it takes, then it waits. People will rebuild, or they won't. You will live, or you won't. The records won't say your name, the scrolls won't mention your family, no stories will be passed down about the man who watched the sea erase everything and didn't scream. But for a while you lived beside the ocean. You repaired a boat with hands your father taught. You made jokes with your neighbours. You traded fish for pickled plums. You offered rice balls at the shrine when the catch was good. You kissed your wife's temple when the fire burned low. You taught your daughter how to tie a line, how to clean a perch, how to sleep through gull calls. You lived, and one morning the sea came back for everything it had ever given. It did not knock, it did not warn. It simply arrived, as it always does, with tide, with wind, with a memory older than any of yours. Now there is silence, not the silence of peace and not the silence of sleep, the silence of after. A long, flat quiet where the scream should be, where it was maybe, but got swallowed in the flood. The wind blows, the birds call, the trees creak, but underneath all of it, something hums low and endless. A presence that isn't quite sound but isn't quite gone. You wake each day and listen for it. You sleep each night and pretend you don't. You are not whole, you are not broken, you are what's left, and that for now is enough. That brings us to the end of tonight's story. Not a tale of survival, not quite, but of what lingers after everything is taken. If you're still awake, still listening, thank you for stepping into a life washed quiet by the sea. The fishermen, the mothers, the daughters, the ones who weren't remembered, they were never written down, but they mattered once, and for a little while, they still do. If you'd like early access to more stories like this, ad-free audio of these episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find a link to the Patreon in the description. You can also like, subscribe, or leave a comment sharing which lost world you'd like to drift through next. Sleep well.